Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the performance. What did you make of Canada against Croatia?
Overwhelmed, I thought. You know, when Canada first scored early, right? The moment, what it meant for this country, the vibes were great, ecstatic. But in the back of my mind, I'm concerned because Canada's conceding that early in the game. And you know what? If it wasn't a wake-up call to Croatia before the match, it definitely was after that goal. So knowing Croatia, the quality that they have, Canada's probably going to have to sit back a little bit. That's honestly a recipe for trouble. And I thought Croatia, to be quite fair, was the better team overall in this match. The one thing I'll criticize a little bit, and I hate to do this because he is the definition of Canada soccer. He is Mr. Canada soccer, but Atiba Hutchinson, 100th cap for Canada. But it's one I'm sure he's going to want to forget. It was one of the poorest performances, I think, in the Canada shirt. I think he could have been at fault for all 3 of Canada's goals, or 3 out of the 4 at least. And yeah, not a great day overall for Canada soccer.
Croatia showed their experience, Sarah, but for Canada, maybe the inexperience is what showed the most.
This was my concern going into this World Cup. Canada hasn't been in a World Cup since '86. You could tell that with that, they weren't ready. And not to say that they're not a good team, because they are, and they have talent, but the concern is CONCACAF is one of the lower qualifications, and when you're not in a World Cup and a Euro and a Copa America, wow, 3 times the charms, it definitely does get to a team like Canada. And I noticed that today because we were all saying Croatia is an older team, and they are. But Croatia shows their experience, and that's how they got around Canada. But the one takeaway for me, and what I've always been saying, this World Cup is going to prepare us for the next World Cup, which we are hosting. We are automatically in that World Cup. So take everything you've learned from this and use it for that World Cup, because that to me is going to be Canada's first real competitive World Cup.
I mean, the easy thing to do right now is to give Canada a pat on the back, right? Oh, you guys got here, you did the job. But that's not what we're going to do. And I want to talk about Herdman's comments. And I'm not going to say they played a big factor, Mikey, but do you think they maybe played into a little bit of how Croatia played today?
I don't think they necessarily did play into how Croatia played. What I will say is those comments did come back to bite Herdman, right? It burned him overall. And you know, is it going to affect his overall value on the world stage from other teams looking in? Yeah, because you know what? That was the biggest storyline heading into this game. You made a mistake, you put the pressure on yourself, and now you have to pay the price, unfortunately. That's the risk that you take. It was looking good after the first couple of minutes, first 20 minutes, but at the end of the day, yeah, it is going to burn him a little bit.
When it comes to the next match, sure, for Canada taking on Morocco, what are your expectations? What do you expect to see from Canada in a match that doesn't mean anything to them?
Listen, just because Canada are out of the World Cup, they're still on the international stage. They're still going to want to make that name for themselves. I think they're going to still come out swinging. That being said, I have always said Morocco is not a team to overlook, and we are seeing it now. I don't know if Canada are going to get a win or even a point, but come out and fight for that game, because you are still being watched. And after Belgium, how many times did we hear people saying, Canada is a football nation? Keep that mentality. It doesn't matter that we're out. We are still competing, and people are still watching.
Go off, Sarah. Go off. No, one thing before we go. 2026. I know you don't want to talk about it in this light, but think about it. This is Canada's first World Cup. Look at the players that are the core of this team. Think about the Alphonso Davies, the John Buchanans, the Jonathan Davis, the Kamal Millers, the Alistair Johnson, Stefan Estaquios. The core players on this team have World Cups to go. And you add the likes of young and up-and-coming players like a Theo Corbeau, a Jaden Nelson, a Jaquil Marcheruti. The future is so bright.
Mikey's getting fired up. I love that. Okay, let's spin it then. Let's get some positives in here. Speaking of certain performances from the Canadian men's national team, we talked about earlier in this tournament some Canadian players that could be getting a big move, maybe somewhere in Europe or from a European team to a bigger European team. John Buchanan stood out for you.
Absolutely. This guy, I've been saying it. He has the potential to not only play in a top 5 league, but I think he actually has the potential to play on a good team in the top 5 league. This guy is a bona fide baller. We've only seen his ascension really start in the last 2 years. Tajon Buchanan only made his Canadian men's national team debut less than 2 years ago. He's just scratching the surface for his potential. He's a tough guy. He doesn't back down. He's great defensively. You see he has the flair going forward, the creativity. Tajon Buchanan is the real deal, and he will be making a move overseas.
And listen, we're obviously critical of Canada, but we need to be extremely proud at the same time for them getting to this stage. They didn't show up and get blown out 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 like Costa Rica did. They showed up and they were competitive. I think we need to be proud of that. Canada still have one match to go in this group against Morocco coming up next week.